Hi, my name is Regin. Today we are going to discuss about a chapter that comes in the 10th biology, which we call it as life processes. That means inside this chapter we have to discuss how the different process is going on inside a living body. For example, we have to discuss about the human system, that is a mammalian system, human system in detail, all the system, excretory system, digestive system, respiratory system, what is its function, etc. Number 2, plant system. That means how plants are producing food, what is the importance of why plants are doing like that, what are the cycles taking place inside the plant. So all these systems together we have to study inside this chapter. So one by one we will begin. Before proceeding to this chapter, we have to know something which is called as, what do you mean by nutrients? Nutrients are chemicals or biomolecules which are helping us for the development and which is helping us to do some metabolic activities inside our body. Which means, for example, one of the nutrient which is known as Fe, which is iron, it is helping us for the formation of hemoglobin, that is blood. This is a protein that is present in the human blood, which is responsible for carrying the oxygen. So if our body wants iron, that is Fe, my body or any mammalian body don't have the capacity to produce this iron. So we have to take these nutrients from outside. And chemicals, or this is a biomolecule, those biomolecules which are helping us to sustain our life, they are known as nutrients. Then, apart from that, you must understand that what are the different types of intake of food, or different types how the different organisms are taking food, that we have to know. First thing, there are 3 types are there. The first, they are known as autotrophs. Second, they are known as the heterotrophs. Third, known as saprophytes. These are the 3 major ways how the nutrients are taken, or how we are getting the nutrients to the system, that means to the entire system. First we will go one by one. What do you mean by these autotrophs? How they are helping? Auto means self. Trophs means the production, whose product is in this. The best example for this is our plants. Heterotrophs means they depend upon other organisms or other living forms, especially to these autotrophs or any other forms, for their food. Best example for this is humans. Third, saprophytes. Sapros means dead, phytes means which takes nutrients from that. That means organisms which feed on dead bodies to take the nutrients. They are known as the saprophytes. Best example for this is fungi. These are the three main ways how the system is getting nutrients. One is autotrophs, that means the plants will produce this. Heterotrophs means which are depending upon other organisms for taking the food. Best example goes is humans. Third, saprophytes means which depends upon the dead bodies. That means wherever the dead bodies or dead remains are there, on which they live and take nutrition. The best example goes is fungus. And it is not plants. There are some microorganisms are also there. For example, euglena. These microorganisms also can produce their food from the basis of autotrophic nutrition. First, we will come to this autotrophic nutrition. So we have to know how autotrophic nutrition means mainly depends upon the plants or any organism which is having chlorophyll inside that. So we have to know what are the requirements for doing that autotrophic nutrition. That means naturally what is available to the plant and how they are producing food from that. So requirements goes is, one is chlorophyll, the second is water, third is sunlight, fourth is carbon dioxide. These are the main components that is required for producing the food that is required to the world. For example, if you take a leaf, most of the chlorophyll will be present on the top part of the leaf. That is why the leaves are having green in color. And number two, water will be absorbed through the roots to the plant to the leaf. And sunlight will be available outside. And the carbon dioxide also will be present in the atmosphere. In order to get a proper autotrophic nutrition, that means if the plant has to produce good amount of food, all these components should be required in its proper ratio. That means if a chlorophyll is high and there is no much more water, or the sunlight is very high, that means the intensity of the sunlight is very high and there is no water, or chlorophyll is not able to absorb sunlight, all these things will affect the production of food. And what is the type of reaction that is taking place inside this plant? That is carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. It will combine with water. In the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll, it will be converted into glucose. So it will be converted into starch, which is a main source of energy, and few will be converted, after that it will be converted into water and oxygen will be evolved out. Starch is the product and oxygen is the byproduct. That means starch is the main thing which the plant is used, and after that, whatever after using, the oxygen will be evolved out. And this oxygen will be used by the humans for the further respiration process. Next we will move to the heterotrophic nutrition. Heterotrophic nutrition means any organism that depends upon other organisms for their products or on them for the food. For example, the main source or chief producer of the food or chief producer that makes food to this entire universe, we have only one, that is plant. And the plant, as we discussed earlier, in plants, through this reaction, starch will be produced. This starch will be taken by some animals as food, or these plants will be directly taken by humans, plus, and the animals that eat on these plants, that means these plants which has produced this starch, there will be few amount of starch will be present inside them, and we humans depend upon those organisms for our energy. So we have to discuss what is happening when we have taken these type of food. For example, what will happen if you have taken starch, what will happen if you have taken glucose, what will happen if you have taken fat. For all the things, humans, we have to depend on other organisms for it. And on the same way, we need oxygen also in order to complete the production of ATP. So now I am going into a picturization of human digestive system to see what is happening inside the human digestive system and what are the processes that takes place inside the human digestive system, and what is happened to the digested food and how the waste is excreted out. This is a diagram of a human digestive system. If you see this diagram, we can understand that how the digestion process is taking place inside a human body. And you must know one thing, that in human body there are two types of digestion takes place. One is a mechanical digestion which takes place inside our mouth, and the second one is a chemical digestion which is taken place in the small intestine and which begins from the stomach. So as your syllabus, we have to see how these organs and how the human digestive system is functioning, how they are helping us to digest the food. First, we have to understand that whatever the food we are taking, we will take in through mouth. When it was taken in through mouth, inside the mouth we have the salivary glands, and there are three salivary glands are there. One is the parotid gland, which is situated near to the left and the right earlobes, and another one is the sublingual gland, and next one is a mandibular gland. Then this saliva softens the food material along with the tongue, which help us to mix the food material properly. So inside our mouth, mechanical digestion takes place. That means with the help of the teeth and with the help of the saliva, we will mechanically chew that process is known as chewing. We'll chew the food. Once the food is chewed, it will be engulfed in and directed to the stomach. From the mouth, it is directed to the stomach through a long tube which is known as esophagus. And inside the esophagus, zigzag movement takes place. And esophagus is 100% made up of muscles. When it reaches to the stomach, already the pre-produced HCl is there. And you must know what is the function of HCl and how this HCl is helping for digestion. HCl is having two functions. One is invading microorganisms through food, but still there are some microorganisms which can withstand the pH of this HCl and they can cause disease to our body. And the second function of HCl is, this HCl is helping to activate the inactivated pepsinogen into pepsin, which is helping for the digestion of proteins. Once these food is mixed with HCl, and it will be directed to the small intestine where chemical digestion takes place. For doing this chemical digestion, our body is supported with two major glands. One is liver and another is pancreas. The liver also secretes many enzymes which are helping for breaking down of protein, fats, lipids, amylase, everything. They secrete amylase also which helps act on the carbohydrates, and the liver will secrete the bile juice which helps for the digestion of proteins and lipids. and whatever the food that is digested, it will be absorbed in small intestine, and that absorbed food will be directed to the liver for the further purification. That means if there is any chemical or something is there, that will be purified, because liver is one of the major organ that helps for detoxification. Then that nutrients will be given to the blood, and the blood will carry these nutrients to different part of the body, where this will be used for the metabolic activity. And after this absorption and everything, the undigested food material will be directed through the large intestine. Inside the large intestine also, if there is any extra water or any other extra things to be absorbed, that also will be absorbed. Mainly the small large intestine is responsible for absorbing water. It will be absorbed, and it will be passed through the rectum, and inside the rectum it will be stored, and it will be outflexed through the anus. The third one nutrition that is we are going to discuss, that is known as a saprophytic nutrition. Saprophytic nutrition means we have plants, we have animals. That means animals which depends upon plants. Some of the few lower level of animal like beings, they can produce their food by themselves. Finally, what is happening? Whatever these plants, animals, including us humans, we will die. We will die. After our death, our body, whatever our body is made up of, they are all made up of with biomolecules. Biomolecules means like molecules that is helping to sustain the life. They are known as biomolecules. For example, in our body, we have rich amount of carbon, rich amount of nitrogen, we have oxygen, some enzymes, some proteins. These all things will be there inside our body. And whatever this biomolecules, whatever the things that is present in our body, the cyclic process that runs inside our universe, nothing will go to waste. So finally, what will happen? There will be some microorganisms, there will be some organisms which have the capacity to feed on these dead bodies or dead remains of plants and animals. So when they feed on, automatically they will get some of this carbon, some of this nitrogen, some products from this indigested enzymes, some products from these proteins. So they all have biomolecules inside that. And that biomolecules, these plants, and one of the few examples for the saprophytic nutrition, for example, fungus. They grow wherever the dead plants are there, and some bacteria will act on us, act on our human dead bodies whenever the body is dead. So these type of nutrition which is run, which was taken by these organisms are known as saprophytic nutrition. That means these organisms feed on the dead bodies, by which we will get back this carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and these enzymes are proteins. They also have some type of nitrogen and some type of carbon bonding. Many things are there inside these enzymes and proteins. These will be balanced back to the environment, and some will be taken by them. These fungus, some of the funguses are edible to us, and these bacteria, they have the capacity to convert it into nitrites and nitrates, and they will give to to this atmosphere, so that the cycle of maintaining the nutrition will be balanced inside this entire universe. So these are the three main nutritional process that runs in our body. One is autotrophic nutrition, means the plants are helping us to produce the food. They are the chief producers. Number two, heterotrophic nutrition. That means humans, including humans, which depends upon plant for the food. Number three, after the death of this organisms which feed on that, which is called as saprophytes, they take energy from that. If there is any queries or if there is any mistakes, please feel free to comment below.
Hi everybody, my name is Regin. Today we are going to discuss about what is respiration means. Last class we have studied about how the organisms are taking food, that means nutrition. So in this class we are going to discuss about by using that food what we have taken in after digestion, how it is converted into energy. That process we are going to discuss. Before entering to this, you have to understand two things, some of the basic differences. For example, what do you mean by respiration and what do you mean by breathing? Sometimes in books also it was given in the breathing side it is given respiration. So you must understand the basic difference. Breathing means taking in oxygen and giving out of carbon dioxide. That is a basic definition we can give. Next one, if we ask what is respiration, respiration means how the energy how energy is obtained by using oxygen through the digested food material or absorbed food material. How it is done, that process is called as respiration. Most of the time the respiration takes place inside a cell, so we will call it as a cellular respiration. Before entering to these diagrams, that means this practical diagrams, activity diagrams, we will first see actually what is taking place inside us. For example, most of the time our body wants glucose as the food source, the major food source, because from glucose only we will get maximum amount of energy. It doesn't mean that fats, proteins, they don't give energy. They too give energy, but they can't give energy how much the glucose is giving. So the first importance is given for the glucose. And in this picture they have given something, that is glucose, which is a 6-carbon compound. This glucose can undergo in 3 processes of making energy. So before converting into those three energy requirements, undergoing the 3 energy requirements, this glucose has to be converted into pyruvate, which is a 3-carbon molecule. Then, and till pyruvate, the process will takes place inside the cytoplasm. After that, if there is oxygen, that means if there is more oxygen, then that pyruvate will enter into mitochondria, which will be converted it into carbon dioxide, water and energy. If there is lack of oxygen, and this mainly takes place inside the muscles, that will be converted into a lactic acid plus energy. When lactic acid is produced more, we will get muscle cramps. That is why whenever we are doing some exercises, we will get muscle pain, because lactic acid is produced. Then that lactic acid, after production of lactic acid, oxygen will come in and it will be converted into energy. There's a different processes going on. And if both the things are happen, If there is absence of oxygen, if there is no oxygen at all, it will be converted into ethanol, carbon dioxide plus energy. And you must understand one thing, inside a cell, the main energy coin means the cell depends on a chemical compound as a main energy source. That coin or that currency, energy currency, is known as ATP. And apart from ATP, there are more energy coins are there which can be converted into the main energy currency, that is ATP. For example, ADP, NADPH, they all can be converted afterwards into ATP. And this is one of the major important process that takes place inside the cell. And you might have studied that mitochondria is known as the powerhouse of the cell, that means which generates energy. And this generation of energy inside the mitochondria takes place like this. That means once the food is taken, digested, absorbed into the bloodstream, first it will carry it to the liver for detoxification. Then blood started to circulate this. On that part, insulin also will come. Insulin will guide, insulin hormone will guide that glucose to enter into the cell. And when it is entered into the cell, before entering the cell, it will be converted into a pyruvate compound that is in cytoplasm. Then when it is entering into the mitochondria, they will undergo this change, and after entering to the mitochondria, inside the mitochondrial cristae, these will be converted into carbon dioxide, water and energy. And if that is lacking, because muscle cells don't have much mitochondria, so it will converted into lactic acid. And the third, in the absence of oxygen, under 100% absence of oxygen, it will be converted into ethanol. So you have to understand that glucose is a 6-carbon molecule which will be converted into a 3-carbon molecule, and that 3-carbon molecule can be converted in further energy in 3 steps. One is on carbon dioxide. Whenever it is in presence of oxygen, the energy will be ATP. And whenever it is in the muscles, it will be lactic acid plus ATP, and ethanol plus carbon dioxide plus ATP will be generated. So this you have to understand in the mind, and the main energy source is ATP. Now we move into the breathing system, that is how the respiration is taking place in human beings. Before entering that into this, I am showing this diagram directly from a downloaded copy, because the diagram which I have drawn is not visible properly. So first of all, I ask apologies for that. And as you know that, listen to the diagram, observe the diagram very carefully. As we know that the air what we breathe will enter into the lungs through nasal cavity. That means before the nasal cavity we are having the nostrils. Through the nostrils the air will enter in the nasal cavity. Through the nasal cavity the air will go into a separate system which is known as a respiratory system in humans. In the respiratory system of humans begins just from the larynx, because just above the larynx, that means still the pharynx, it is a common passage for both the food and the air. So whenever we know that whenever we are eating food, sometimes the food will enter into the lungs. Sometimes, in order to protect from that, our body is having a system known as epiglottis. So whenever we are eating the food, the epiglottis will come and block the air passage so that the food will pass directly through the esophagus into the stomach. And from the larynx, just below to the larynx. Larynx means a voice box. Just below to the larynx, the respiratory or the pathway of respiration in humans begins, original pathway. So if you see that the first tube that connects from the larynx to the lungs is known as trachea, and this trachea is protected with C-linked cartilage. In this diagram, the trachea, the C-linked cartilage is shown in a sky blue color, C-linked cartilage, and this trachea is divided into two branches, one to the right side and another to the left side. So the first branch from the left to the left or the right, we will call it as the primary bronchus, and this from this bronchus, bronchi will generate another small branch of bronchus, and this bronchi will enter into the alveoli, a small sac-like structure which is the original breathing area. And another one more thing, if you observe this lungs very properly, you can see that a small C-shaped bone on which the lungs is placed, that particular bone is known as the diaphragm. And another thing, if you see the left and the right side boundaries, that is near to the arm side, you can see a small bones that covers on that, which is known as the rib cage. So that is why the lungs are protected with the rib cage, lungs and heart. And that particular area which is protected with the rib cage, we will call it as the thoracic area. Now we'll move into the physiology of respiration. That means what is happening when we inhale and exhale. So if you see that there are two diagrams, one is known as exhalation and another is known as inhalation. And if you see that each and every process is numbered 1, 2, 3, what is happening. So first we will discuss about what will happen when you exhale the air. Exhale the air means giving out of carbon dioxide. When we exhale the air out, we are exhaling out a good amount of carbon dioxide. When we are exhaling out, what is happening is the rib cages will relax and the diaphragm also come to a relaxed stage. Relaxed stage means it will come to a C-shaped structure. Then when it is coming to the inhalation, the opposite will happen. The rib cage will expand and the diaphragm also will expand. When these following things are happened inside the thoracic area, there creates a pressure gradient so that air from outside will come into the lungs, and that particular process is known as inhalation. So when you are inhaling in, there will be maximum amount of oxygen. That means the amount of carbon dioxide will be less. That you have to keep in mind when we are inhaling and when we are exhaling. When we are inhaling, the amount of oxygen will be higher than the amount of carbon dioxide. When we are exhaling out, the amount of carbon dioxide will be higher than the amount of oxygen. So this process is an autonomous process. It is not controlled by us, and it is 100% controlled by the brain, especially the cerebellum, pons, cones. They plays the role and they give the signal how much air to be in, how much air to be out, everything. So when this process is happening, you must understand that amount of oxygen our lungs capacity, that means according to the shape of the body, size of the body, according to the area, everything matters. For example, when we are moving from a plain area to an higher area, for especially mountains, we will be having a problem for breathing. That problem is because when we are going higher and higher, the amount of oxygen is becoming less. That means amount of oxygen present there is very very less, very low compared to the oxygen that is present to the plain area. Because of that, many of the people, those who are lived on the plain area, when they go to the higher mountains, they will be having breathing problem, which is known as hypoxia. That means lack of oxygen. So, and the people, those who are living in the hilly areas, they don't have that problem, because even though we inhale oxygen, that means they are living on that higher mountain areas, even though the oxygen amount is low compared to the plain, but they have more amount of hemoglobin inside their blood. We will discuss about this inside the circulatory system. So this mechanism you have to keep in mind, what is happening in exhalation, what is happening in inhalation. And another one more thing, there are a lot of organisms are there which have the capacity to take in oxygen and give out carbon dioxide. For example, when we take fishes, they take in oxygen. They are not taking atmospheric oxygen, they are taking dissolved oxygen. So they will breathe through a special breathing apparatus known as gills, and we use lungs, and spiders use book lungs. So like that, the process of breathing and the organs of breathing will be keep on changing according to the organism where they are living. And insects also will breathe. They have the small channels on their skin surface, and which is known as trachea. And apart from that, some have the capacity, for example earthworms and all, they have the capacity to breathe through the skin, through the moist skin, though that means exchange of gases can be taking place. And the next question comes is how this exchange of gas takes place. That means how the gas, that means oxygen or carbon dioxide, which was taken in through inhalation and exhalation, is given to the blood. The process by which the body use is diffusion. Diffusion means it depends upon the principle of gradient. For example, you can see a diagram here. That means if you see in one column that red dots are more, and in another column dead dots are less. But when we see the next column, there is a movement from the more red dot area to the less dead dot area in order to maintain the equilibrium. This particular process is known as diffusion. That means the movement of molecules from a higher concentration to the lower concentration area without spending any energy. You think about that. If our body is spending energy for breathing, we have to spend more energy for breathing itself. So the body wants to avoid that extra wastage of ATPs, which are the energy coins. And that particular energy will be taken for some other purpose. And a human breathes almost 16 to 20 breaths per second. Now we will see how the gaseous exchange takes place in plants. Before entering to that, we have to know a little bit about what is the structure of a leaf, and what is their internal structure. That means inside how the tissues and cells are organized. this should be a topic which should be taken in an autotrophic nutrition. I forgot there. And this also can be linked with how the gaseous exchange takes place, because tomatoes are coming here, so we can link and study. So if you see the structure of a leaf, you can see one thing, that there is a blade, that means the outer area, that or lamina, and there are small network running in between, they are known as the veins, and through the middle we can see the midrib, and this particular lamina and midrib, everything is attached to a stem through leaf stalk or petiole. Then you can see stipules there, from where the other leaves are also emerging. Then a sheath means a covering. These are the typical structure of a leaf. And when we are coming to the how the cells are arranged inside the leaf, we will get something like this, which is also given in your textbook, so you can refer that also. And this portion is given under autotrophic nutrition. So when you see here, these are having 2-3 parts. You can see upper epidermis, mesophyll, placid mesophyll, spongy mesophyll, wax cuticle, then guard cell with chloroplast. We will discuss one by one. So whenever you see a leaf, most of the time the upper part of the leaf will be dark green, and the lower part of a leaf will be light green. It is because the sunlight is falling on the upper portion of the leaf. Since they have to absorb more sunlight, more sun energy, almost all the time the chlorophyll will be found, or chlorophyll will be found on the upper region. So if you see on that basis, inside if you see the first layer, you can see a thick, layer which is known as epidermis. Epi means upper, dermis means skin, which will give a mechanical support to the leaf. And over that upper epidermis, you can see a waxy cuticle. This waxy cuticle will help plants to repel the water in the rainy time, or whenever it is dipped in during some flood for a shorter period of time. Then below that you can see placid mesophyll. Placid, word placid means fenced, long fenced, and meso means middle, phylline means leaf. And on inside that placid mesophyll, you can see some dotted structures, which is chloroplast, which is filled with chlorophyll. And this placid structure is supported with spongy mesophyll. They also are having little amount of chlorophyll inside that, and in between there are air space. This air space is for the passage of air. And now we are coming to lower epidermis. In the lower epidermis, you can see that there is an space, an opening, which is known as the stomata. Through this stomata only the exchange of gas takes place. And this stomata also will have little amount of chloroplast inside that, which also do the part of absorbing the sunlight. And when you see this 3D diagram, you can see the exactly thing. The thick green color is the epidermis. Upper layer is green in color. Just below that, which is cuticle. Then you can see the upper epidermis, placid layer. Then you can see the veins which runs in between the leaf. Then the lower epidermis and the stomata and the spongy layer. This is how they are arranged. And when you see the structure of a stomata, we can see like this. That is, it is guarded very specially, because this is the entry point through which water and carbon dioxide enters. Then water and oxygen moves out. So this should be guarded very properly. Why it has to be guarded very properly? Because according to the temperature, according to the humidity, it will open and close by itself. It is not open every time, because most of the summer time, now we are running in a summer season, so during from 10 to 4 6 o'clock 5 o'clock, stomatas will be closed, because if the stomatas are open, lot of water will be moved out through the process of transpiration. So if you see this stomata, they are somewhat circular in shape, and they are have protected with a cells known as guard cells. You can see a something like a bean shaped structure to the middle, which is having nucleus, and in between these two guard cells we are having the stomatal pore. If you see the left and the right diagram, you can understand that one diagram shows that the stomata is opened and another diagram shows that the stomata is closed. So this is the main function of the guard cell. That means they will guard that particular stomatal pore opening and closing according to the temperature and other external factors that is outside. And potassium is the ion which is helping more in the opening and closing of the stomatal pores. So when the stomata is open, the water will be moved out. That particular process is known as the transpiration. Transpiration means the water will move out to the atmosphere in the vapor stage, and this loss of water is also helpful for the plant to get rid of excess water. Plus, this stomatal pore is also useful for the exchange, because carbon dioxide is very much required to prepare the food. So entry of the carbon dioxide is very vital, and when the carbon dioxide, when it is used and fixed inside that cyclic process, then oxygen will be liberated out with some amount of water in the vapor stage. For all these things, stomatal pore is very useful. So you have to link and study this structure, stomata, and these two diagrams of the leaf with the autotrophic nutrition, and it is also helpful in the process of exchange of gases in plants. Hi all, today we are going to discuss about the circulatory system. You know that circulatory system is very important to us because it is a system which carries all the required things for our body. It includes nutrients, minerals, vitamins, hormones, maintaining the temperature inside of the body, and it carries the body defense systems, that is white blood cells, everything. It is carried by the circulatory system. So it is very important to know how the circulatory system functions in the basic ways, how this circulatory system functions, what are the different types of circulations we are having, so how they are breathing, how they are circulating these fluids in different parts of the body. So we have to study all the things. So before we entering to the, according to the 10th syllabus, we have only one part, that is a circulatory system in humans, that is human heart and its associated structures. So here we will just see how the different organisms, how they are doing its circulation. So you know that we are having two types of circulation, which is known as the open circulatory system and closed circulatory system. So open circulatory system, we know that open circulatory systems are the systems, there is no other structures. It is simply, that means they don't have any divisions among them. These are the two types of system that is normally present. That is, one is known as the open circulatory system, which is present inside one of these insects. You can know that this is clicked from a book, that's why it is like this. So this insect is having an open circulatory system. That means there is no difference between the circulatory fluid and the interstitial fluid. That means the fluid that is present inside the body. And this particular circulatory systems are present in many of the invertebrates. And this is one of the closed circulatory system which is present in fishes and in humans also. We are having this closed circulatory system. That means this is having a heart pumping the blood from one area to taking the oxygenated blood from one area, and it is bringing the deoxygenated blood, and the process of exchange of gas takes place. And another important thing is that whenever the circulation is taking place, whenever there is a circulation, there are three types of circulations are present according to the structure of the heart. These are the three types of circulation. One is known as the single circulation, this one which is mostly seen in fishes, and this is known as the triples. That means this is known as the double circulation, and that means double circulation in with a three-chambered heart, and this is the double circulation with the four-chambered heart, and this is a single-chambered heart which is present on the fishes. Sorry, not single chamber, two-chambered heart. This is the three-chambered heart which is present in amphibians, and this is the four-chambered heart that is present in birds, and the same thing it is present in us also. So here we have to and here now we are going to discuss about the structure of human heart. That means how the four-chambered heart is helping us to do the circulation in our body. And if you see here, this is the structure of the human heart. We can see that this is the diagram of the human heart, and basically it is chambered one. That means it is having four chambered, and this is the left side, this is the left side, and this is the right side, and the left side is responsible for carrying the oxygenated blood, and the right side is responsible for carrying the deoxygenated blood. And if you see here, you can see that these chambers are having different names. The left side, the upper chamber, this is known as the left atrium, and the downside is known as the left ventricles. Same to the right, this is the right ventricles, and this is the right atrium. So atrium is the connection from the lungs for the deoxygenated blood, and from left atrium blood will be taken to the lungs for the purpose of purification. So, and if you see here, and the one more thing, this particular part of the heart, that means the left ventricle side, is much thicker than the right ventricle, because this left ventricle is the original area which pumps. So when they are pumping, the blood will circulate out to the different parts of the body. And another one more thing, if you see here, 1 minute, just a minute. And if you see another one, that these atrium, the left side, left atrium, left ventricle, right atrium, right ventricle, they both working as a chambers. Chambers means a closed area. And you can see here two white color structures like this. These are known as the valve. That means one valve opens from the left atrium to the left ventricle. That means this one, which is known as the mitral valve. That means when the blood comes and fill here, it opens and flow to here, and the chamber will be filled. Same way here also, but given in different names. Here also one valve is there, here also one valve is there. So these valves opens and closes for the functioning of the heart. That means whenever the heart is pumping, the blood, this part will open, the blood will circulate to the systemic part, that means other part of the body. Same way, blood from the ventricles pass to the pulmonary part of the lungs for the purification. Like that, simultaneously these both areas will function. And another one more thing you have to understand is the chamber. That means there are some valves are also connected, because inside the heart the pressure is very high whenever the heart is pumping. Since the pressure is very high, in order to maintain that pressure, there is a big valve is there, you can see here, big valve, and these valve is known as the aorta or aorta. That means aorta, this aorta is responsible for carrying the oxygenated blood from this part of the heart to the other areas. And the same way, here also we are having this one. This will carry the blood to the lungs. But whenever we are discussing, you should be very careful that why these valves are having big structures, especially the aorta are having big structures, and what is the function of these bigger structures? Because when the heart is pumping, that pressure has to be maintained for some time. For that, this particular valve should be big in size. So as they go to the different parts of the body, the size of the valve will be getting reduced and reduced. Then it will enter into the tissues. This is the basic structure of human heart. One more thing forgot. So whenever the blood is coming to the right part, that is the right atrium side, whenever it is coming to the right part, the blood is not coming in a single way. So the deoxygenated blood from the upper part of the body will be brought by the superior vena cavas. Vena cava means the large valve sized one, vena cavas, and this side it was brought by the inferior vena cavas. That means the blood from the head part will be brought by the superior vena cavas. Deoxygenated blood from the down part of the body will be brought by the inferior vena cavas. This is the basic structure of a human heart. You don't want to study how the heart is pumping, but you have to know the basic structure. And this full heart is made up of muscle, which is known as the cardiac muscle, and in between them there is a separation also, which one is known as the septum. And the next we are going to see about what are the structures that is responsible to carry this blood from one part of the body, that means to the heart, to the other parts of the body. These are the blood vessels that is responsible to carry. And you had seen that aortas are very big valve, very big one. This aorta, as they start its journey, it will become very small, which is known as the arteries, and arteries will again become small, which is known as the arterioles. Then it will enter into the tissues. Same way, when they are returning back to the heart, veins, capillaries, venules, veins, and to the heart. And remember one more thing, arteries don't have valve and veins are having valve. Valve means it is not it's like something like a flap. Why they are having this valve like flap structures? Because backflow of the blood is not allowed. That means once the blood is started to move in this direction, it is not allowed to come back again to the former direction. It It is not allowed. In order to stop that, they are having valve. And here in arteries, they don't want valve. They don't have valve because pumping of the blood, that means this blood flows from the left side, left ventricle, from the pumping. So here the blood has to flow very smoothly to all over the body. So here we don't want valve, but here we need valve because they should not be brought back. And if you see, arteries are much thicker than the veins, and the most thinnest one is capillaries. Why we have this type of divisions, that is arteries, capillaries, veins? Because if you see the structure, when we remember the last structure, you have seen aorta. When the heart is pumping, the pressure, in order to maintain the pressure, aorta is required. Then these aortas become arteries, and these arteries again become arterioles, and these arterioles will become capillaries. And why they are becoming smaller and smaller and smaller? Because when you see the tissues are very very small, very very small, and in those tissues it is not possible for these bigger structures to enter. It is not possible. So in order to maintain the entry, plus in order to maintain the pressure is very important. If the pressure is not proper, the diffusion of gases will never take place. That means the exchange of gases between the capillaries and the tissues, between the lungs, it will not take place. So it is very important. In order to maintain that, the bigger side structures become smaller and smaller and smaller. And when we are going back to the heart, the smallest structures are becoming bigger and bigger with the presence of valve, so that they don't have to backflow. And here when we see, there is one more thing. What do you mean by an artery, and what do you mean by a vein? There are some definitions which were studied in the lower classes. That means arteries are structures which carries oxygenated blood from the left side of the heart to the other parts of the body, and the veins are the structures which carries deoxygenated blood from the tissues to the right side of the heart. That is mostly we have studied this definition, but we have to re-clarify. That means we have to clarify that definition once again. So in a 10th standard and above, when somebody is asking what do you mean by an artery, you have to say that the structure which carries or which allows the, that means which carries blood away from the heart. Let it be oxygenated or deoxygenated, doesn't matter. Any structure which carries, or as a circular system blood vessel which carries blood, or which carries blood away from the heart, it is known as an artery. And the veins means structures which carries blood towards the heart. So this should be the definition you have to give. That means arteries are the structures which carries blood away from the heart, and veins are the structures which carries blood towards the heart. And the arteries carries mainly oxygenated blood, and the veins carries mainly deoxygenated blood. And one more thing you have to know, you have to understand that whenever I am saying arteries, that means arteries carries oxygenated blood, it doesn't mean that it carries 100% oxygenated blood. A few amount of deoxygenated blood is also present. Same way here in the vein also. It doesn't mean that 100% of blood is oxygenated. Few percentage of the blood is deoxygenated. So these things we have to remember. These things you have to keep in your mind to understand how the circulation takes place. The another one is, one of the major important thing that takes place in our body is known as the double circulation. Double circulation means in our body the circulation takes place twice. Twice in the sense means just about the double circulation and its importance. And what do you mean by double circulation? Double circulation means the blood will enter two times inside the heart to finish one circulation. That means it will enter, it is come out through this left side like this, and it will again enter. That means two times they are entering to the heart to finish one circulation. That particular process is known as double circulation. And in double circulation there are two types are there inside that. One is mean by the pulmonary circulation, another is known as the systemic circulation. Pulmonary circulation, pulma means lungs. Pulmonary circulation means the circulation between the heart and the lungs. For example, here you have to understand one more thing. Here it is given as arteries, here it is given as veins. I think you might have seen that. If you see the definition, that means arteries carries oxygenated blood. If you are going with that definition, you can see here that here it is carrying deoxygenated blood. And veins, if you are saying that veins carries deoxygenated blood, but here it is veins are carrying oxygenated blood. Because of this reason only I have said to change the definition. That means arteries are the blood vessels which carries blood away from the heart. So it is carrying away from the heart. Veins are the blood vessels which carries blood towards the heart. That is why pulmonary arteries are responsible to carry deoxygenated blood from the right ventricle part of the heart to the lungs, where the purification takes place. That means exchange of the gases takes place, carbon dioxide and oxygen. Carbon dioxide will be given and oxygen will be taken to the blood, and that will be taken from that lungs to the left part through pulmonary veins. Once it reaches to the heart, the ventricles will fill and the heart will pump, that will circulate all over the body. And this is one of the main function that takes place inside the mammalian, not only in mammalian kingdom, many of the organism that is living on land, that is terrestrial organism. And this particular function is known as double circulation. And this double circulation is very much important so that the proper amount of oxygen will be given to the tissues according to the need of the body. That means whenever we are climbing a mountain, our heart will start beating faster. When the heart started to beat faster, our breathing rate also will be increased. According to that, this will, according to the situation, according to the need, this will change. But wherever the organisms are having single circulation, it is not possible. That means two chambered heart with single circulation, it is very difficult. And the organisms with three chambered heart also, for example some of the amphibians, it is little difficult, but few of them will survive, but many of them are not. So it is one of the main advantage of the double circulation. I hope that at least you got what does you mean by circulation, how the circulatory system is helping us. Next, we are moving into the topic known as blood clotting. So there is a portion is there in your textbook. They have said that what will happen if the leakage is happened. So when the leakage is happened, the process that takes place is blood clotting. When you see this diagram, you can see that RBCs are biconcave in shape, which is the big round one, which you can see there, these things. And these are the broken vessels and the blood is moving out now. So when the blood is moving out, it is activated. That means the platelets will be activated, and this blood clotting event is 100% controlled by genes. So if there is any problem happens inside the gene, there are many factors like factor 7, factor 8, factor 9, factor 12, blood clotting factors. If there is any problem happens inside that particular factors which is 100% controlled by the gene, the blood clotting will not takes place. One such disease we call it as hemophilia. That means if the wound is happened, the blood clotting never takes place. And to the blood, if anywhere the blood is ruptured, the platelets will come and do its function. Otherwise the platelets are also known as thrombocytes. So they will come and do the blocking process. And if the blocking is not done, what will happen? There will be the leakage, pressure leakage will be there. Number two, there is a chance for invading of microorganisms to the body, and it will cause other infections and diseases to us. So in order to avoid that, the blood will undergo clotting, and this is how the clotting takes place. Inside the clotting we have platelets, we have fibrin, thread-like structures. They will all club together and they will seal wherever the leakage has happened. So this particular process is known as blood clotting. There is one more thing which is said from your part, that is lymph. Lymph means, this is the diagram that is going for the lymph. The term lymph means, which is originated from a Latin word which means water. Water means colorless. So if you see that these are the arteries, arterioles, and it is entering into tissues, that means these branch structures are known as the capillaries, which is entering to the tissues, and this one is vein. And apart there you can see a parrot green colored structure, colored one, which is running, known as the lymphatic tissues. Actually the lymphatic tissues are interstitial tissues. That means it is another circulatory part which is running apart from the normal systemic circulation. It is another circulatory part which will be more content with fat, carbohydrates, and lymphocytes. Lymphocytes means T cells, which are responsible for the fighting. They are one among the soldiers which fights against the disease. So the fights against the invaded microorganisms. So this lymph carries those things. That means what is happening is, whenever there is an excess carbohydrate or whenever there is an excess fluid present inside these arterioles or veins, there will be, because if you see here, they all are connected over here and there they have connected. So whenever there is excess in these structures, they will be passed through another system known as lymphatic tissue through the process of diffusion, and they will be circulated all over here, all over the body, not almost all over the body. We can have the lymphatic system, so they will circulate there. Once they are circulated, if there is any excess need of this carbohydrates or other things, that will be taken back to the systemic tissues, and they are the main area where the T cells are functioning. That is why they are known as lymphocytes. That cytes means cells, lymph means inside the lymphocytes, they will fight against the invading micro. Apart from that, these lymph are responsible for carrying the fat globules after digestion. So the fats are transported through the lymphatic system. So this much you have to know about the circulatory system apart from the oxygen part. So blood is also doing the same. Circulatory system is also performing this function also. So I think by this video you understood what is a circulatory system and what are its parts, etc. So if there is any queries, please comment inside the comment box. I will get back to you. Thank you. Next we are going to discuss about the process known as excretion. And before this, there is a small topic is there, that is transportation in plants. I will take that particular topic in the next class. So today, listen and understand about this excretion. And the word excretion means it is the process by which the metabolic waste are eliminated from the body of an animal. That particular process is known as excretion. And excretion and egestion, egestion, both are two different processes. This is ejection is a discharge of undigested food material from the body, but excretion is the elimination of metabolic waste. That means after doing the process, whatever the reactions required inside the body, after that the waste is there, that elimination is known as excretion. And for this excretion, different organisms have different mechanisms. For example, we have some organisms which are living in water, which are living on land, terrestrial. So like that, for example, many of the water living animals, they excrete their metabolic waste in the form of ammonia because they have rich in water. And some organisms, they excrete in the process of uric acid, and we will be excreting in the process of by the process of urea. But inside our body, the waste product is ammonia, but it is converted into urea inside the liver, and it will be excreted out through the kidney. And the major organ that is responsible for excretion in humans is kidney. If you see the diagram, you can understand that. You can understand this. There are two pairs of kidneys. One pair of kidney which is located the both back side, almost to the back of the abdomen, side of the abdomen, back side of the abdomen, attached to the backbone. And this kidney, if you see, these kidney are a small, something like a, what we can call it, it will be only a shape of a soap, a normal soap box, that's all. And inside this kidney, the filtration process will takes place, where the inside the kidneys with the help of nephrons, and whatever the filtrate is there, it will be passed through the ureter, and it will be stored inside the urinary bladder, and it will be expelled out through urethra. This diagram is very, very important. They are asked this in exam. And there you can see two different color structures, vessels, or tubular structures. One is written as renal artery, another is written as renal vein. Artery means which brings or gives blood to the kidney, and the renal veins means which take deoxygenated blood away from the kidney, so that you have, because kidney also need oxygen for its survival of the tissues. So those things will be supplied by the blood, and the same blood will undergo the process of excretion. And you must understand that whenever we are saying about excretion, the plasma part of the blood is going for excretion, not all the part. We said that in the blood we have plasma, serum, like that we had discussed last time. No, we have studied this in 9th. We have discussed only the structural part, not the blood, not the different parts of the blood. That plasma part of the blood will go for filtration. And when we are coming to this excretory mechanism, the kidneys are having a structure something like this, which is known as nephrons. This is the basic unit of kidney. That means in both the kidneys, if you take one kidney, there will be about 1 million nephrons will be present. and in other kidney there will be another million. So we are millionaires in the case of this nephrons. So it is very much important. If there is anything happen to the nephron, that will lead to the damage of the kidney. That means the process of filtration never takes place, so it will leads to some problem. And if the the function of kidney is not only the excretion, there is one more main function is there inside the kidney, that is osmoregulation. Osmoregulation means we have in our body, we have sodium, chlorine, magnesium, potassium. Those things are there. They are very much vital for our growth and the maintenance of the cell structure, the giving of impulses among the neurons, that we will study later in the next chapter. So for those things we need these minerals. So the kidney also will, that means these nephrons also will do one more function. Whenever they are filtering out, they will make it sure that maximum minerals will be reabsorbed. So that means known as osmoregulation. That function also the kidney will do, especially then each and every nephrons will do. And apart from this, kidney is having many functions. That means the kidney can regulate the blood pH. It can regulate the blood pressure, blood osmolality, and it is secreting some hormones known as erythropoietin, and it secretes some enzymes known as renin, renin, and it is also helping in blood glucose level, maintaining the blood glucose level. So lot of things this kidney is doing. So the kidney is very much important to us. So when we are coming to this structure of this nephron, you can see there a red color, that means renal artery. Whenever we are discussing about this renal artery, it is called as afferent arteriole, afferent arteriole. That means which brings blood into the nephron and which takes away the blood from the nephron is known as efferent arteriole, AF and EF, efferent arteriole. That is not given in your in this part. It is just for your information. And whenever you see this part, this is this particular part, which is known as the Bowman's capsule. I can't use the pen now because of some security features, I don't know. So whenever you see this Bowman's capsule, you can see a network of structures going inside. It is known as the glomerulus, and glomerulus is present inside the Bowman's capsule, and the blood will enter, that is a plasma part of blood will enter through this. So from the plasma part the filtration takes place. Whatever the balance is, that will be taken to the or absorbed back to the kidney. This is what mainly these nephrons are doing. And inside this nephron, if you see, it is very lengthy, coiled, and we are having collecting duct, etc. These are collecting duct, not etc., collecting duct. This collecting duct is responsible to collect urine, and before this collecting duct, they from our body they secrete one hormone known as ADH, antidiuretic hormone, or otherwise it is known as vasopressin. If ADH or vasopressin is not secreted before the filtrate entering the collecting duct, it will lead to a disease known as diabetes insipidus, or type 1 diabetes. So you must understand that ADH is related to the nephron, which is responsible for absorbing water from this nephron. So these are the main things you have to understand about this. As per the basis of 10th class. So there are a lot of things to be explained. Henle's loop of Henle, proximal convoluted tubule, distal convoluted tubule. So it feels very difficult to explain those things like this. So if you have any doubt related to this, please ask. And one more thing, whenever I said that the Bowman's capsule, Bowman's capsule, glomerulus, they are responsible for filtering, but actually the filtering inside that takes place with pressure. If the pressure is not proper, it is impossible for the nephrons to do its work. So whenever the pressure goes down, the kidney will gives the signal. Kidney will secrete some chemicals which makes the heart to pump more blood, or it will thicken the arteries and arterioles. So there are a lot of chemicals. So that is how the kidney is regulating the blood pressure also. So if you have any doubt related to this topic, please ask. And below that there is one column is given which is known as hemodialysis. Hemo means blood, dialysis means filtering it out. So whatever the kidney has to do, that particular function we are doing with the help of machine. So hemodialysis or artificial kidney is very much important to a person who is having the problem of diabetes. You might have heard about that. Those who are having more sugar level in their body or more diabetic mellitus or type 2 diabetes, their kidney will fail. When their kidney fail, this particular filtration is not possible. So kidney will fail, so filtration is not possible. When the filtration is not possible, there will be accumulation of nitrogenous waste inside the blood that is poisonous to us. To eliminate that waste, this hemodialysis is doing inside the hospital. I think it is clear. So if there is any doubt, please comment.